podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Network's, I know, 200 radio stations coast to coast on Sunday, November 15th, 2020. This is episode 1746. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast comes to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. Securing every access point in your company does not have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure, even when they're working remotely. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more. This episode of The Tech Guy is brought to you by LastPass. Give your IT and security leaders control of password security with the award-winning LastPass. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. And by ExpressVPN. Stop letting people keep logs of what you do online. Protect your online privacy with one click. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/techguy. And by Linode. Simplify your cloud infrastructure with Linode's Linux virtual machines and develop, deploy, and scale your modern applications faster and easier. Right now, get $100 in free credit when you create your account at linode.com/twit or text TWIT to 474747 for a direct link. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers. Computers. Does that sound old-fashioned? The computers? What are those? Oh, you know that big thing in the glass room over there with the raised floor and the guys typing at the top? That's a computer. Computers. The internet. That has almost become background, hasn't it? I mean, it's there. If you don't have it, you know it. The internet, home theater. We talk about that, sure. Photography, our digital photography guy. Our guru coming up in just a little bit. Chris Marquardt. We talk automotive technology. Abuelsamid coming up about 20 minutes. Talk about that. Virtual reality, augmented reality, Facebook, Google, Twitter, all of that stuff. All of that stuff. The phone number? Sure. 8888 Ask Leo. If you want to talk about it, I'm here for you. I'm here to talk. Anything on your mind, 888-827-5536. That's toll free, from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada region. Outside that area, you can still call. It's always toll free. You just have to have some sort of voice over the internet thingamajig like Skype to make that phone call. 888-827-5536. I will mention that we have a website that's, I'm not trying to get you to sign up for anything. It's free. There's no sign up. I don't want your email address. You can keep it to yourself. It's techguylabs.com. The only reason I mention that is because that's where you can go to find anything you hear on the show after the fact. You don't have to remember it. Just, our scribe, James DeRuvo's writing that all down. That's his job. He remembers it so you don't have to. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. The website, techguylabs.com. What's going on in the world of high tech? Apple announced new computers this week with their own chip in it. Their very own chip in it. That's, it's kind of always been Apple's philosophy that if you I think it was a great philosopher and thinker, later an Apple fellow, who said that if you want to make great hardware, you got to make the software. Something like that. I should get people who are really, this is the quote from Alan Kay, people who are really serious about software should make their own hardware. Apple was a hardware company before there were anything else, but in those days, when you made computers back in the 70s, you had to make the software and the hardware. You had to make it all because there was nothing else. So Apple first came with its own operating system and its own software and Apple Basic and all of that. But time went on, and as happens as civilization rises, we delegate. So pretty soon they were having chips made by. First, it was Motorola when they first made their computers, and then it was by IBM and the Power PC Coalition. And then it became Intel about 15 years ago. They said, well, Intel, those are better chips. So they started using Intel, but they didn't make those chips. This is a big deal for Apple. Back in 2007, when they announced the iPhone, they made their own chips for the iPhone and the iPad. Because the mobile chips that were out there, they thought weren't that good. And they had the capability. They had bought a chip company called PA Risk, and they had a lot of chip engineers on staff. And they thought, well, we can make these chips. If it's a phone, how hard could it be? They had to make the whole thing, really. But you know what? The iPhone was a massive hit. It became so successful that it powered the whole company into the 21st century. I mean, it's probably the most successful consumer technology object of all time, maybe going all the way back to the zipper. I mean, this thing took off, kind of like the zipper took off in the early days. So Apple said, and then they made the iPad, right? They had their own chips, but they were still making Macintosh computers. Not the biggest part of their business by any means, but they were still making them with somebody else's chips, Intel's chips. That's exactly how Microsoft, they made the software on Windows machines. IBM and other companies made the hardware. It was a conglomerate. But it was always a little bit of a struggle, right? I remember, it must have been almost 20 years ago now, interviewing Andy Grove, who was the CEO of Intel, and he was mad as a hornet about Microsoft. He said, we're making these great chips. I think at the time they were 32-bit chips, and Microsoft's still making 16-bit operating systems. They don't take advantage of our chips. Our chips are, and there has always been that kind of battle, seesaw, back and forth battle between hardware and software. The operating system got better, then the hardware got better than the operating system, and they were never in sync. So you never got, as a user, we never got the best of both. In those days, the Windows wasn't quite as good as the Intel chip. Of late, the Intel chip hasn't been quite as good as anything. And Intel kind of got struggled a little bit and got behind. And along comes AMD, they making better chips, and then Qualcomm and Samsung, a lot of other companies making better chips. And Apple's finally got all the wherewithal, I guess, certainly a lot of money, with the success of the iPhone, to make their own chips. And now they say, the guys designing the chips can work closely with the guys and gals designing the software, and they can make sure that they both go hand in hand, march forward into the future, and that's exactly what they're doing. And so this is, I think, an important transition point for desktop computing. We've been through that with mobile computing. Now it's happening with desktop computing. And I think Apple, we don't know yet. Nobody has these computers. We've seen some early benchmarks, things like that, but the reviews won't be out till, I think probably Wednesday of this week. People will get their hands, normal people like you and me will get our hands on them starting Friday. And then we'll start to see people say, well, Photoshop, that's terrible, it doesn't work. Or, oh boy, it really works well. Or look, I can play this game or I can't play that. We'll start to see some real world, because we don't have any real world info yet. It's going to be interesting to watch. I think it's worth watching because I think it's potentially a massive, massive shift in the way we compute. They're making the whole thing. So we'll watch that with interest. There's actually quite a bit of a furor going on because when Apple released the new operating system, Big Sur, when did they do that? Thursday. They said they would, Everybody was downloading it, all the Mac users downloading it. So Apple's servers slowed down, in particular a certificate server that they use. And I think it kind of was an eye-opener because Apple's gotten so strict on the operating system. This is a good thing. They've made the desktop operating system, Mac OS, as restrictive perhaps as iOS, as its phone operating system, for security reasons. It's about time. Security is a big issue in computing. You know that. Every day there's another ransomware attack because these computers are vulnerable. So Apple's doing some interesting things, and one of them is without jumping through hoops as a user, you can't run software that's not signed, notarized, they call it, by Apple. It's got to be notarized. Furthermore, the developer, the person who wrote the software, has to have a certificate signed by Apple. So we know if it's malware, we'd know exactly who wrote it. That's, Makes it harder for bad guys to get on your system. You can, as I said, you can disable that. It's called SIP, System Integrity Protection. You can disable it, but and the gatekeeper is the tool. You can disable it, but probably shouldn't. Probably be a bad idea. This notarization and certificate process. Except that when Apple's servers got real busy downloading Big Sur, all of a sudden their certificate servers got real busy and slow. And all of a sudden people say, well, my software is not loading my Mac OS is slowed to a crawl. And that opens people's eyes. Said, yeah, you know what? Apple's phoning home when you open a new program. It's checking to see who wrote that program, if they're legit, and if it's been notarized, and if it's legit. That, Windows does that too. In fact, it does more. But I think that's kind of opened people's eyes. Linux does not do that. So if you're really concerned about privacy, you don't want your computer, phone at home, you should use Linux. But remember, you don't have the system integrity protection. You don't have the gatekeeper. You don't have the stuff that's protecting you. You're running, it's up to you to be secure. Chrome OS has done this for a long time. It's one of the reasons I recommend Chromebooks, because they are also very secure. It's often a trade-off between my security and my individual rights. How about that? It's like, we're seeing that in a lot of areas, aren't we? I have rights, but I want to be safe. I have rights, but you should be safe. That's kind of what's going on with the Mac world. Interesting. It doesn't bother me, but there's some people who are worried about it a little bit. I think it's better to be secure. In fact, partly I'm biased in this because I talk to so many people on this show who have security problems, and I think if it's Microsoft or Apple or Google, if they're doing something to make that system more secure, even if it phones home when you run a program, I think in my book that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But what do you think? 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. TechGuyLabs.com. That's the website. We'll go to the calls in just a bit. Kim's here. She's answering the phones. She's ready to go. She's going to sanitize you before you come on the air. Don't worry. She'll spray you with a little bit of yeah, just to protect everybody. Yeah, they're talking in the chat room about the mRNA vaccine technology, which is super cool. I thought, should I talk about that? But it's not exactly technology, but it's really cool. Instead of injecting you with a bit of the virus deactivated, growing it in chicken eggs, and they make a strand of RNA that, when injected, instructs your cells to make the antigen, the fighter that kills the virus. And your cells make it, and it works. It's very effective. This is a brand new vaccine technology. It's very cool. I think it's just super cool. I know, Dr. Mom, I know. It's technology. It's medical technology. It's just really cool. And, it's a little different than what we've been doing, but the really good news is you can make it a lot faster. You can make it in labs. You don't have to have chicken eggs and like the flu vaccine. You can make it a lot faster. I'm sure we'll have an mRNA flu vaccine at some point too. It's particularly good with coronaviruses, apparently. I guess it is kind of technology, isn't it? Because it's kind of gene splicing technology. So it is kind of. But they can make this messenger RNA very quickly, very efficiently, in multiple labs. Yes, it has to be refrigerated, but that's not unusual. A lot of vaccines have to be refrigerated. And yes, you have to have 2 shots, which is kind of a negative, but that's not unusual either. Some vaccines, you have to have two inoculations to make it sink in, but it's very effective and very easy to make. Those are 2 good things. 2 good things. Well, I understand it's really cold. But dry ice could do it, right? They'll you know what? We can solve that one. Yeah, isn't that cool? Podcasts on Watch. Isn't that just a cool technology? Okay, 100 below. Big deal. Dry ice isn't cold enough? Oh, I thought it would be. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I give you the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer, our phone angel. She don't take no schnaffer. Hello, Kimmy.
Hello.
Hello.
At least you have a career in the circus if this goes by.
I always wanted to get a top hat and tails and boys and girls, children of all ages. We were talking during the break about this technology they're using to make the Pfizer vaccine that they think might be super effective. It's very interesting. It's called mRNA, messenger RNA. Instead of taking a bit of deactivated virus and injecting it into you and hoping that your body goes, oh, and generates the antigens to kill it, instead they actually inject you with it's like a computer program. They inject you with this strand of messenger RNA that tells your cells, hey, make this antigen. And the cells go, okay, boss. And it's kind of cool.
Well, everything else is computerized. Why not DNA?
Yeah, it's very fancy. It's a very fancy technology.
What a world we live in.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Let's cross our fingers, because if it's fast, it's easy to make.
I know.
You can make it. You don't have to. You know, the flu vaccine, they use chicken eggs. You don't have to use chicken eggs. You can make it in a lab, and many labs can make it. It's fairly easy to make, relatively so. So it's easy to make a lot of doses. You do have to keep it really cold. They'll have to work on new freezers for the doctor's office. But other than that, I think this is pretty exciting.
Whatever gets us back to some sort of normal.
I know.
I'll take it.
So we're going through a tough time, and everybody just, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It makes it a little bit easier to, mask up, and it's going to be hard Thanksgiving and Christmas to, a Zoom Thanksgiving.
It's not the same.
Just ain't the same.
Nope.
We're trying to figure it out. I already ordered a big turkey and a big ham, so I'm going to cook it. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a little kiosk at the front door. Family members can come by, go home, get on Zoom, and we'll all eat together.
You have a big enough parking lot. You can just
put them in the parking lot.
Just everybody can sit 12 feet apart.
Parking lot Thanksgiving this year.
There you go. Parking lot party.
That's okay as long as it's not raining or freezing.
Well, we have a better chance of having a nice Thanksgiving than a lot of this country.
That's true. Well, my mom's in New England, so I sent her a little, don't tell her, a little ham and some Vermont cheddar. And so she's going to have her little, little Thanksgiving, and we'll Zoom to her too. Who should I talk to first?
How about you chat with Daniel in Chatsworth?
How about it? Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Hello, Daniel. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Awesome show.
Why, it's just begun, but thank you.
Yeah, but normally it is.
Normally it's good. We don't know this one yet. It could be good, could be bad. We don't know. But thank you. That's very nice of you.
Of course. I have an XP machine that recently it boots up to a blue screen of death.
It's telling you that it doesn't want to work anymore.
Okay. Is there any way to have this?
Sure. I have to give you the the obligatory warning that XP is no longer being serviced by Microsoft, which means there could be security issues that are not getting fixed. Plus, of course, a lot of software, including browsers, will no longer work with XP. So you're going to slowly see this getting worse and worse. This might be a good time to put a newer operating system on that machine.
Okay.
At what point does it blue screen? How far does it get in the boot?
First, when it boots up, it gives me the option whether to start Windows normally or go into safe mode. It gives me those options, and
that's because it failed last time. So
right.
It says I blue screen last time. Do you want to try again? And if you don't go into safe mode, is it blue screen?
Yes, any option I choose, it goes.
Even safe mode, it goes into blue screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you had there's a couple of things you could do. If you have the original install disks,
okay,
you can boot to those and run as you go through the boot process, there'll be at one point you'll have an option to do the recovery mode, which will go through and some file is damaged. That machine's pretty old, right?
It is, yeah. It's one of those IBM ThinkPads, original ones.
Oh, nice. Oh, those are sweet.
The most durable laptop I've ever had.
Yeah, that's the problem. The laptop outlasted the operating system.
Yeah.
So maybe that the hard drive is flaky, and so a part of the system that needs to run isn't running, in which case replacing the hard drive and restoring the operating system will do it. But the first thing I do is boot to the XP disk, run the recovery. As you go through the setup, you'll see a point where you can do options and you can say recover, and it'll run the system file checker and replace any files that have been damaged. That might be enough.
Okay.
But if it doesn't work, it might be because it's on a part of the hard drive it just can't remember. In which case, those IBM ThinkPads, very easy to fix. You can open them up, put a new hard drive in there. It would also be a really good candidate for Linux. Linux runs really nicely on IBM ThinkPads, and the advantage of doing that is you'd get a modern operating system that is up to date. I would go to Manjaro, manjaro.org, or ubuntu.com, ubuntu.com. Get a copy of Linux, put that on there, see how it works. If it's still failing, then it might be really that the hard drive is gone and it's time to put in a new hard drive. But the advantage of those, what's the model number? I'm just curious.
It's a T30.
T30s. Man, those are classics. So the advantage of those is that it is very easy to open up, and all the parts in there are easily replaced. There's actually a very brisk business in ThinkPad parts. If you go to thinkwiki.org, you can actually look at the T30 and see all the parts. Okay. It comes with. Have you ever upgraded the memory?
Yes, I have.
Okay, because it came with 2 gigs of RAM. That's probably not a lot.
Right.
I mean, oh wait a minute. No, it came with 256 megs.
Yeah, exactly. It's only up to a meg now.
Yeah, a gig. Yeah. So yeah, that's why you can't go to Windows 7 or anything like that.
Right.
Do you go online with it?
Yes, I use a browser called MyPal, which is normally updated.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to slowly...
It's limited. I can't do everything with it, but you can do simple things.
I would take a look. Since it is so low memory, you're not going to be able to put either of the Linuxes I mentioned on there. You're going to have to do a small Linux, which is designed for 1 gigabyte of memory. And so there are a lot of really good light. This is one of the things about Linux. I think you're going to love it. It's free. You can get a Office that's free. I mean, it's probably the best way to keep that thing going.
Okay.
XUBUNTU is a lightweight version of Ubuntu designed for small machines. It's XUBUNTU.org.
Okay.
You can download it, put it on a CD or a USB key and boot to it, see how it runs, see if you like it before you even touch your hard drive. And I still think you're probably going to have to replace the hard drive.
Okay.
Because that's, it's so old.
Right.
That the hard drives don't go forever.
Sure.
Let me see what the type of the hard drive is in that. Because it's probably not a SATA. Oh, God, it was a 20, 40, or 60 gig hard drive. Wow. I mean, this is a classic. If you go to the ThinkPad Reddit or you go to thinkwiki.org, there are a lot of ThinkPad fans who are keeping these older ThinkPads alive. There'll be lots of information there about what you can do.
Okay. Now, I get a error message on the blue screen. Does that help any in recovering it?
No.
Okay.
This is a pet peeve of mine. The programmers put these in because they can maybe do something about it, but it's useless to an end user.
I see.
I think your hard drive. What's almost certainly happened is a system file is broken. It tries to load it and it crashes.
Right.
The question is it broken because it just went bad? In which case, putting in that install disk, running the system, repair. Repair is the word I should have used, not recovery. The repair tool might fix it. If it does, okay, good. You can keep going. Eventually, you're going to have other problems with that hard drive. You could replace the hard drive, I'm sure.
Yes.
And that might be worthwhile, but I wouldn't put a lot of money into this because it's so low memory and it can only go up to 2 gigs.
Right.
It's never going to be able to do much.
It can actually go up to 2 gigs?
It can go to 2 gigs according to ThinkWiki, yeah.
Okay.
You'd probably have to get a 2 gig SIM. You're welcome. That's a classic machine. I have my ThinkPad right here. It's a little more recent, but these are great machines. You got the IBM version. That's the greatest. That's great. Our show today brought to you by our great sponsor. They have been all year. They named the studio, the LastPass Studio. The time is right for LastPass. We know you can't trust your most important, most valuable data with just anybody. That's why we trust LastPass. And we've been using them. I've been using LastPass for a dozen years since they first started. Steve Gibson's been using them for 10 years, ever since he took a look at all the code and said, yeah, they're doing everything right, our security guy. Our IT guy started using LastPass here at work about 5 or 6 years ago for identity and access management. We're not the only ones in love with LastPass. In the G2 Fall Grid Reports, this is a peer review site, you've probably seen it, that provides unbiased user reviews on software. 746 customers have left user reviews. Go and look, 93% positive, 4 or 5 stars, because LastPass works. It does exactly what you need. And if you've got employees working from home, it's exactly what you want, because it both makes their life easier and your life more secure. You take control of your password security from a central dashboard. You can customize admin privileges so you can give different users administrative rights, but only within that particular area. You see exactly how well your company, your employees are doing with their password choices. You get scores. You can see how they're sharing accounts. You can see what they're accessing from where and when. All of these things so important. You also have more than 100 policies you can enforce. We, for instance, require our employees use 2-factor. We have minimum password requirements for their master password. There's single sign-on. The autofill and the single sign-on mean that employees want to use LastPass. That's really important. If you have a security system that people don't use, it's no good. People want to use it. They use it to share passwords, too, in a much more secure fashion. You can enable multi-factor authentication, not just 2-factor, the biometrics, but add a geolocation or IP address to the contextual factors that make it so that you really know the right people are using your resources. There's a great built-in password generator that generates those long, strong passwords I'm always advocating. And I love it, and our employees love it, because we can store more than just passwords there. I keep my passports, my driver's license, Social Security. It's my secure enclave where everything is stored, because LastPass is 100% secure. 8 awards so far this year. PC Magazine's Editor's Choice, the Fortress Cybersecurity Award, Business Insider's Best Overall Password Manager, just to name a few. Let the award-winning LastPass help you take back control of your password security at home and at work. Find out more at lastpass.com/twit. lastpass.com/twit. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our car guy, Sam Abuelsamid. He's my car guy anyway, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. He's also the lead podcaster at wheelbearings.media, the Wheel Bearings podcast. It's great for people who love cars. And I saw your Insta yesterday. I gave you a little heart because you saw one of them, the Ford Mustang Mach-E's, the new electric Ford, in your neighborhood at a gas station. Wait a minute, was it a gas station?
No, an Electrify America station. There's one about a 10-minute walk from my house. I was driving by yesterday.
Nice.
And I was sitting there getting charged up. I stopped by to talk to the driver. It was somebody from Ford. He's been doing miles to do charging testing.
It's pretty. So it's a pretty
drives, goes in, fast charge, drive, goes in, fast charge.
Just to see how the battery handles it, huh?
Yeah, he's done about 10,000 miles in the last month.
Wow. Wow.
And it's a good setup. With the Ford Pass setup, you don't have to have multiple accounts for different charging networks.
Oh.
You just plug in your car. It's got a new standard called plug and charge.
Yeah.
You just plug it in, and it automatically goes through your Ford Pass account and does the billing and everything and authentication. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to mess with anything on the screen.
Ooh, I'm so excited.
Plug and go.
Can't wait. They're making mine in 8 days.
And I'll be
driving
one a week from tomorrow.
In 8 days. Yeah. That's exciting. Yeah, I've had the Ford Pass app on my phone for a year, but I can't do anything until I get a car. So, but I keep looking at it, going, pretty soon. But that's not what you're here to talk about. I see you have a beautiful BMW behind you. What's going on there?
So I think you may be the first person who's actually used that particular adjective in reference to this particular BMW. The word beautiful, I mean.
It is kind of ugly. It looks like a bug.
Yeah, BMW's gone a little off the rails with their design lately, with their massive grills going just taking their classic twin kidney grill and just making it bigger and bigger and bigger.
It looks like a compound eye of a fly.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
But the design aside, this is actually BMW's next EV that they're launching next year.
Well, see, all right. Which is funny because you don't need a grill for an EV because there's no cooling you need, right?
Well, yeah, there's just a little bit of cooling for the battery, so you only need a small opening at the bottom, which is what you see at the bottom of the front fascia there.
So it's a fake.
It's a
fake grill.
Yeah, it is. And
funny.
It's too much. But BMW showed a concept 2 years ago called the iNext. And this is the production vehicle developed from that concept. It's called the iX. Launches in Europe next summer, late next summer, I think, early fall. And then it'll be launching here in the U.S. in early 2022. 300-mile range. It's an SUV crossover thing, more like a tall wagon than a classic SUV, but similar in size to the Audi e-tron, and one of the interesting things about it that they didn't really talk about this week. Actually, there's a number of interesting technology things besides the fact that it's electric. It's going to have 5G connectivity and cellular V2X communications, so vehicle to everything communications over cellular connection, which will be the first one from BMW to have that. There's a number of cars in China that are doing that now. Ford's going to be launching that in 2022. A number of other manufacturers are planning to launch that. And so that allows for things like vehicle-to-vehicle communications, vehicle-to-infrastructure. So you can get signals about traffic light information when the traffic signals are going to turn. Vehicles can transmit messages to each other about the road conditions ahead. So, if a vehicle's driving along and the sensors detect an icy patch on the road, it can broadcast out a message to other vehicles that there's an icy patch. Or if somebody does an emergency braking, it'll broadcast back to vehicles following it that there's it hit the brakes, so everybody else can stop before they even see that vehicle. So it's a really cool technology, and then it's also going to have a level 3 conditionally automated driving system, which means you can go hands off and eyes off. And this will be one of several cars that's coming out next year that's going to have LiDAR on there. So, we've talked about LiDAR before. There's a whole bunch in the last couple of months. There's been a bunch of announcements from various companies about new lower cost LiDAR sensors that they're launching.
I have LiDAR on my iPhone.
You do.
But I can't drive it anywhere.
No, but the fact that Apple is doing that, they're going to be building tens of millions of phones with that LiDAR sensor.
Bringing the cost down.
And that's a particular type of LiDAR. It's using laser emitters known as VCSELs, vertical cavity surface emitting lasers. Nicely done.
Nicely done.
Yeah. As opposed to the edge emitting lasers, which are more commonly used right now.
Right.
So there's a bunch of sensors that are coming out that use that technology. There's a company called Ouster that's doing that. Ibeo's got a VCSEL LiDAR sensor. And one of the VXL lasers are not as powerful, so you don't get as much range out of them. But the fact that Apple's doing this now means that there's going to be much more demand, much more production capacity, and we're going to see that technology advance much more rapidly over the next few years.
We've seen
that's going to help bring down.
We've seen that before with Apple. That's why drone technology has gotten so cheap, because everybody ramped up to manufacture accelerometers and cameras for the phone. Now we're going to ramp up to manufacture LiDAR, VXL LiDARs for the phone. Is VXL good enough, though, for a car? Isn't it low power, low light, shorter distance, that kind of thing?
So it depends on how you implement it. Ouster, for example, they have a LiDAR sensor they just announced called the ES2 that claims 200-meter range, which is
that's
really
plenty.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the iPhone probably do about between 5 and 10 meters.
Yes, that's
but
right.
for the car, they're claiming 200-meter range, but it's a narrower field of view, so it's more for driver assist type applications than fully automated driving right now.
Yeah. CJ in our chat room is saying her robotic vacuum has LiDAR on it, which actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just, like 1 or 2 lasers, and it's probably VXLs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to see it everywhere. It's going to be really an interesting new technology that's going to change a lot of things.
Yeah, and so that's going to even though highly automated vehicles are still probably quite a few years away from being widely available. What we are going to start seeing is LiDAR sensors being used for these driver assist systems and coming down market to enhance automatic emergency braking and adaptive cruise control and other features that we have today, making those much more capable. As that happens, that's also going to help scale and help reduce the costs and make it more capable for the highly automated systems.
I feel like full self-driving is farther away than people were thinking.
Oh yeah,
it's not.
Yes, absolutely.
It's turning out to be a little harder to do than we thought. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Our latest forecast at Guidehouse that I did earlier this year projects that even by the mid 2020s, we're only going to have a few 100,000 highly automated vehicles in operation.
So, in other words, we're going to get self-driving vacuum cleaners long before we get self-driving cars.
Yep. That's about right.
In a nutshell.
But there's a lot less risk if they go wrong.
If they go, hey, maybe not. I don't know. I don't want a renegade vacuum in my house.
If your vacuum runs into your cat, what's the worst that can happen?
That cat
as opposed to a car running over you.
That's right. Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. He's my car guy, and he knows it all. Wheelbearings.media if you want to listen to his great Wheel Bearings podcast. And he joins us every week. Thank you, Sam. Have a great week.
You too, Leo.
I'm looking at my poor little empty garage.
It'll be filled up soon enough.
My poor little empty garage on my Ford Pass-App. Oh, it's empty. I like that, though, because soon I'm going to be able to say add vehicle. Scan in the VIN.
Yeah, I imagine they'll probably send you an email with the VIN number before the car arrives so you can get it all set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
In fact, they may even fill it in for you, like as soon as the VIN has been assigned.
Yeah, because this has my account, so they know it's me. This is that charging thing you were talking about.
Yep.
That's
so
cool.
you set it up once you set up your just put in a payment option in there.
I see. Okay.
And then once you plug in the car, it'll just charge. You don't have to mess around with finding the right NFC tag that's hanging off your key ring.
Nice.
For 5 different.
I'm not going to have a key ring because this is also going to let me in the car and all that too. So that'll be in the Ford Pass app. The unlock thing will be the part of the Ford Pass app.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll use that, and it uses Bluetooth LE. Ford's using Bluetooth LE for locking and unlocking authentication. Exciting. And then you just put it down on the wireless charger inside there, and you'll have wireless CarPlay or Android Auto. And
my car is going to be born a week from Monday. I'm so excited. I'll be sitting on that day thinking, I wonder how it's going.
I forget, which color did you order?
I wish I'd ordered the red now that I saw your pictures, but I ordered the what is it called? The gray, carbon gray, something like that.
The carbon gray. Carbon gray is good.
I didn't want
blue is really good.
Yeah, see how pretty that red is. And Lisa loves red, but that's too ostentatious for me.
She can get a red one next year.
She can get a red something, but it'd probably be something else. I will be doing reviews of it because Sam's going to drive it a week from Monday, and he's going to get video as he drives it. And then once I get mine, we'll combine our two videos. So we'll have a review of the Mach-E probably a month from now, something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Should be fun. All right, Sam, I'll talk to you next week. Have a good, safe week. Is it getting cold in Michigan? Is it snowing yet?
It's not snowing yet. It's a little warmer today than it was yesterday. Yesterday, when I got up to walk my dog, it was 24 degrees out. Today, it's in the 40s again.
It's in the 50s here. That's why I'm wearing a big, heavy sweater.
we have a high wind warning until 7 p.m. tonight.
Boy.
The winds are gusting to about 60 miles an hour. So.
Yikes!
Yeah,
well, take care.
But I got all the leaves cleaned up yesterday. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I
could have just waited and just let them blow away, but
yeah, blow into the neighbor's yard.
Exactly.
Okay, Sam, stay safe.
All right.
We'll talk next week.
Leo.
All righty. Bye-bye. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number. Hassan's on the line from Vancouver in British Columbia. Hello, Hassan.
Hi, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for taking my call.
I love Vancouver. How is it? Is it a little chilly? Getting a little chilly?
Sunny and chilly, yeah.
Beautiful city.
But
used to do a TV show up there for a couple of years on for Rogers. It was so much fun. Anyway, what can I do for you?
I had a question about dual booting Linux and Windows, but with a bit of a twist. So basically, I have a separate computer for work and personally, and I'm just trying to simplify things and be on one system. We use Citrix Receiver.
Okay.
So just want to put it all on one and live with that.
Actually, I wonder, does Citrix have a version of that for Linux? Because then you could just log into the Windows machine and you wouldn't even have to put Windows on your computer.
Yeah, it does have a version for Linux. So I was thinking of Windows for personal and kind of isolating Citrix to Linux and just using that for that.
Oh, that's funny. So I had it flipped. I thought Windows for work, Linux for home. You got it the other way around. Okay, I got it now.
No. I'm leaving Mac and going back to Windows.
Okay. Yeah.
But,
why is that?
I was a long time Windows and then tried Mac for about 6-7 years and just never quite got used to it.
There's no reason to abuse yourself. They're personal computers. You should have it exactly as you want. Don't let anybody tell you, including me, one's better than the other. Just use what you like. You understand that if you like Windows and you know Windows and you know how to keep yourself secure, you understand it. So that's the key, right?
I tried, Leo. I tried.
You tried. You did your best. I don't blame you. I'm not going to hold it against you. And actually, Windows 10 is pretty nice. I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, it's just something I'm used to a lot. So.
Yeah.
But the sort of the complication I'm running against is all these acronyms about dual booting and TPM and UEFI. So
the trick is if you install Windows after Linux, it will clobber Linux. Because Windows doesn't, well, at least maybe they've changed. Microsoft now kind of likes Linux. But for a long time, if they thought, well, we're the only operating system, so we're going to change the master boot record or the boot system to fit our needs. Now, you're on a UEFI system because you're on a modern system. So now that's where the boot decisions go. I think, though, if you've got a setup, Windows setup on your computer, do that first. And then almost any good Linux installer, do you have a Linux in mind for yourself? Linux is a free open operating system that a lot of geeks like me like a lot. Do you have one in mind?
I know you love Pop! OS or Ubuntu. So
I've actually switched. Ubuntu, Pop! OS is based on Ubuntu, and that's certainly the most popular Linux out there. But actually, I like, for me, because I'm a geek, and sound like you might be a little bit of a geek, I like what's called a rolling distribution. That is, I always want to use the latest version of all the programs I'm using, Firefox and so forth. The problem with Ubuntu, Pop! OS, Debian, these do what traditionally do a long-term stable version and are slow to upgrade programs. That's to maintain stability. But if you're a geek, you're used to, on Windows and Mac, having the latest version of everything you use. And that's what a rolling distro does. It keeps you up to date. There's a little more risk that something's going to break your install. But so the classic rolling release, there's really two kind of groups in Linux. There's the Debian group, which is Debian, Ubuntu, and Pop! OS. And then there's the Arch group. Arch Linux is the also, like Debian, community-created, community-supported version of Linux, and it's a rolling release. You can update it all the time, and you'll always have the latest versions of your software. I like a step beyond that. It's kind of the Ubuntu of the Arch world. It's called Manjaro, Manjaro. And part of the reason I like it is they're not quite as bleeding edge as Arch. It's also easier to install. And if you go to manjaro.org and download a version, they have several different versions that you like, whether it's GNOME or KDE, whatever desktop you like, and run the installer, it will see Windows. It works with UEFI. It doesn't work with Secure Boot. You want to disable that on your machine, of course, because that's for Windows only. But once you've got Windows installed, go into the setup, disable Secure Boot, and then run the Manjaro installer. It will see Windows, it will see UEFI, it will say, do you want a dual boot system? You say yes, and that, if all goes well, is all you really need. It'll do it for you. Okay. It's pretty reliable. I like Manjaro because they are slow to do. They're not full rolling. They kind of cure the updates for a week or two, make sure there's no showstoppers before they push them out. They have their own repositories, so you're not pulling from the Arch repositories, but you do have the benefit of the Arch user repositories, there are two real benefits to Arch. One is its wiki. Even if you're using another Linux, the Arch Wiki is often the definitive source for information about Linux. But the other is the Arch user repository, where you can get third-party and other tools that aren't part of the official distribution, and that is an amazing thing, the AUR. So that's of late, Arch, and particularly the Manjaro distribution of Arch, is my favorite, and that's the one I'd take a look at. And it really will, I believe, give you a very simple path to dual boot.
Okay, that's awesome. So is there any way to keep BitLocker and live in the dual boot world, or you have to disable it?
To keep which?
BitLocker.
BitLocker. No. You can use BitLocker. BitLocker will only lock the Windows partition. It won't lock the Linux partition. It's a partition. It sounds like it's a full disk, but it's really full volume encryption. So it won't do the whole disk. It'll just do the Windows portion. That's my understanding anyway. I've never tried that. That's an interesting question, but my understanding is it's volume based. So you'll BitLocker the Windows volume, but not the Linux volume. Linux has its own full disk encryption as well. I would not turn that on for the dual boot system. That could cause issues.
Yeah, and I don't really need that for Linux because it'll have Citrix anyways.
You're not going to put anything on there.
Totally.
And I would not turn on BitLocker until after you get the dual boot all set up, because Linux might be resizing partitions, things like that. It'll want full access to the disk. That's a really good question. I have not tried that, so I don't know. But my guess is you could, after you've got the dual boot working and everything's fine, maybe image it at that point and then turn on BitLocker. But I think that should be okay.
Okay. Related to this, do you have any experience with Strix receiver, and does it maintain a good firewall between your personal?
Yeah, it's basically encrypted. It's VPN, so it's not a VPN, but it's like a VPN. You should be completely secure. Yeah, that's the whole reason people use it, right?
Yeah. I know there are options to open some ports to, use the local USB or?
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I mean, you can decide, and probably your IT department will have some opinions about that as well.
Yeah.
But, I think you should be okay there. Hey, Hassan, great to talk to you. Stay safe, all right? British Columbia, one of the most beautiful parts of the west coast of North America. Just gorgeous up there. I'm sorry. I apologize to all of you for that extremely geeky conversation. I realize now probably 90% of what we were talking about is completely useless to most of you. Linux, free and open source operating system, big fan of it. There aren't that many choices in desktop operating systems. There's Windows, there's Mac, there's Chrome OS, which is a variant of Linux. That's it. So it's good to know about all of them. And I really like Linux. And then when you get to Linux, there's a lot of different flavors and distributions because it's open source. Anybody can do what they want with it. So that's the annotation for what we just talked about. Sorry, that was so geeky. Oh my God, it was so geeky. It's too geeky, man. Too geeky. Yeah, always do Windows first, then Linux. I haven't done a dual boot in a long time. I usually do, wipe out Windows and put Linux on. But lately I felt guilty, so I put Windows back on the T470. Just because it's good to have, and then I can answer questions and stuff like that. We noticed the background change. Daily refresh was switched. No, I want daily refresh. Enable daily refresh. Thank you, Bing. Bing. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. No more Linux. No more Citrix. We'll talk real stuff that real people use. I apologize. 88, no more geek talk. 88, well, all right, a little bit of geek talk. 88, Ask Leo. I'll try to keep it in English if you want to talk high tech. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Scott is on the line from Orange, California. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well. How are you?
I'm sitting in the sun. It couldn't be better.
I hear it's fairly warm in Southern California today.
Yeah, we're going to hit 80.
Oh, my goodness. Don't they know it's winter?
Right.
Well, I guess it's not technically yet, but all right. Yeah, enjoy. It's a little chillier up here in Northern California. We're in the 60s, low 60s. What can I do for you, though? The sun is shining, at least. What can I do for you?
Okay, so I just got the new IMAX Pro because I want the awesome camera. So I've been shooting video professionally for 36 years. I was adding it up.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is.
Holy cow.
Uh-huh.
So you got the new iPhone 12 Pro Max?
Pro Max. Uh-huh.
You got the big boy.
I did.
Do you feel like now, so some people have said it's too big in your hand. It doesn't bother me. Do you feel like it's too big?
It feels solid.
It's heavy, isn't it?
Solid.
Solid. That's a better word.
But I use a handle with the grip. I've done 75 half-an-hour TV shows that I've shot on my other iPhones.
What?
Over the last 3 years. Yeah.
What? For network television or for who? For whom?
We live in a little community where we have our own cable TV station, and I do.
Isn't that amazing that the camera on this is, honestly, if you've been doing videography for 36 years, I mean, you probably go back to Betacam SP and even older technology. This is better video than you could ever get on those big 35-pounders.
That's my point.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So here's the thing. I've convinced my wife that I now need a 75-inch television.
Absolutely you do. With Dolby Vision, baby. You sure do.
Yeah. So my question is, I'm a Vizio guy. I've got a 65-inch that I spent like $1,000 on.
I know.
But for this, because I don't know if you've messed around with the HDR, the quality is crazy. But it's so high on my expensive iMac, it won't even show HDR quality.
No, you need to go get one of those Pro XDR displays Apple sells for $6,000.
Yeah, which I won't do.
No, you shouldn't.
But I will get a 75-inch I'm here's looking for advice. They've got this LG with nanotechnology that's like $1,500 for a 75-inch. or there's a Vizio. Or
I will tell you the secret terms you need to find.
All right.
It doesn't matter, not brand specific. But isn't it ironic that the video you now can shoot with this iPhone, which is Dolby Vision, high dynamic range, 4K, 60 frames per second, beautiful video. And of course, the iPhone screen is high dynamic range, so it looks beautiful on the little screen on the iPhone. But with a standard computer, you're not gonna see it. Now there are some companies, and I'm sure Apple will do this, making laptops with 4K HDR Dolby Vision displays. But you're right. The best way to do this would be put it up on the TV. Then you could see it in all its glory. So here's what you're looking for. There's two TV technologies right now that you can buy. Plasma's gone, right? It's either LCD or OLED. For most people, affordability is an issue. Also, the ability to have enough brightness to see it in a room without dimming the lights and closing the curtains. The LCD is going to be the choice. When you're coming to LCD, what you want, here's the acronyms. You want an LED backlit. Sometimes they call them LED TVs. They're still LCDs. It's just an LED backlit. And you want something called full array. That means the LEDs go all the way. They're not just on the edge. They're all the way behind it. Local dimming. That means, and that's how you get the HDR on LCD. That means if there's a bright sun up in the corner, those LEDs are turned on all the way. And if it's a dark beach down in the lower right, those LEDs are turned down. That gives you the broad dynamic range of HDR. That's FALD, full array local dimming. So you're going to look for FALD. Nanotechnology just is another kind of LED. I don't know what, I wouldn't worry about that. So you're going to look for FALD LED backlight, 4K obviously, UHD obviously, HDR obviously. And I think nowadays your choices, we've seen, by the way, Hisense is advertising at Best Buy. I think they might be sold out, but keep your eye peeled. A $400 70-inch Dolby Vision TV that's pretty, Scott Wilkinson talked about it yesterday. It's pretty good. $400.
Okay.
$400. The spousal approval factor on that, that's the other acronym you need, SAF, very high. You know, because it's only $400. $400. Yeah, honey, go ahead and get that TV. That's a third what your iPhone cost. It is hard after paying $1,200 for a phone to justify, oh, and now I need a $1,000 TV. I understand the spousal acceptance factor.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I'm not talking to you, Siri. The spousal acceptance factor might be a little bit of an issue, but these two Chinese companies, Hisense is one and TCL is the other, are very aggressively trying to get in the market, just as, by the way, the South Korean companies did when the Japanese companies were on top. When it was Sony on top and Panasonic and Sharp, along comes Samsung and LG saying, hold my beer, watch out, we're going to be the big boys. And they did. They shoved aside Sony and Panasonic and Sharp, and Samsung and LG became the top brands. Now the Chinese brands are saying, hold my Qingdao, I want to be on top. So they're being very, very aggressive. Vizio is also what we call a second-tier manufacturer that does a good job. They're really pushing their way into the top tier at this point. They're making some very, very nice TVs. So I wouldn't stay away from Vizio. As long as you don't want edge lit, you want full array local dimming.
So you mind if I tell you why I'm excited about the camera?
Yeah, tell me. Because you're the expert. Please.
Yeah. So, I could spend maybe $6,000 now and get a 10-bit array video camera, which means more bits, which means you can color correct better and, quote unquote, just do more with the data.
But this is 10-bit.
It's 10-bit.
It's 10-bit. What does 10-bit mean?
Well, it just means that there's way more pixels, ability to work with the data in the whatever you're shooting to do color correction.
Each pixel gets recorded in as a digit. It could be 8-bit, it could be 10-bit. The more bits per pixel, the more information you're storing.
Yeah.
Right? Is that right? Did I get that right?
That's it. Yeah. So here's my thing. I make documentaries too. And I think it's either AMC or Regal now because of the whole movie theater reality.
I know. But thank goodness there's YouTube and There's all this streaming stuff, Netflix.
But what I want to do is you can rent a movie theater for $100 now. Like have your own party.
That's right.
Movie, right?
That's right.
So it's all digital. So I convert my high quality iPhone movie. Steven Soderbergh made a movie on an iPhone, and I show it for $100 in a movie theater, and let people come in and look at my documentary with all the bells and whistles of the movie.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's my plan.
What's your document? Give me what are you working on? Tell me about your current documentary.
Okay, so the whole COVID thing, I'm calling it Pandemic Now What?
That's good.
Where do we go from here?
What happens next?
Here, right?
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
And the thing we're not getting is people aren't talking to each other. We're so secluded. You don't know what your neighbor's thinking or who's thinking what.
I know. Right?
And the thing about the documentary is you can pull all kinds of different, Republicans, Democrats.
I like it.
The whole spectrum of people together.
Yeah.
You might never get in the same room, right?
Let's hear from each other. Yeah.
And,
I like
and then come up with solutions. Like, now what? Now what?
Now what?
Now what do we do?
I love it. Do it. That sounds great.
Yeah.
With no axe to grind, just, what's the deal, man? What are we going to do? We're all in it together. We got to figure this out now.
Yep.
I love it. Make that documentary and then tell me you call back when you got the theater.
Nice.
We can tell people about it.
Nice.
Get Steven Spielberg over there.
Why not?
Hey, Stevie, I got a documentary for you. Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you. I hope you get the spousal approval factor on that new TV. Vizio's still great. If you can afford an OLED, those are, LEDs, OLEDs are going to be always the best high dynamic range because of the technology. But these new Folds are really pretty good. Even Scott Wilkinson says they're pretty good. And that Hisense, $400 for 70 inches. Only problem is, people discovered it, and I think Best Buys all over the country are sold out. But it'd be worth a check, wouldn't it? Pleasure talking to you, Scott. Pandemic, now what? Now what? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Dr. Mom's on the line from San Diego. Everybody's favorite physician. Hello, Dr. Mom.
Hey, Leo. Too bad you're freezing. It's 80 degrees here, and when I'm done with this, I'm going to go sit by the pool.
Oh! No, it's okay. I don't mind. As long as we get rain. Now, did you get any rain this week in San Diego?
We had a little bit, and as per usual, the natives ran outside swinging rubber chickens and thinking it was fallout from North Korea.
What's going on? Why is water coming out of the sky?
Exactly.
We need the rain up here. Actually, you do too. California is a little bit dry, so let's get some rain.
Just slightly dusty here. Yeah.
So what's up in your world?
Well, if you didn't see it, Amazon has rolled out a new service using their devices to keep an eye on your parents and your grandparents.
Now, this is something people call in all the time for. I know you know that. That's great news. Tell me about it.
Okay, it's called Care Hub. What it does is it links your account to your parents' grandparents' account and monitors their device use. So
you remember we had a call 2 weeks ago? A guy wanted to do that.
Exactly. And what it'll do is if your parent doesn't turn on the radio to listen to a song when they normally do, you can set it up to get a notification.
Oh, this is great.
You can set up to be notified if things don't happen. Other things you can do if your parent falls and they're able to call for help, they'll say the wake word, get help. Instead of going to 911,
goes to you.
Notify you.
Oh, this is wonderful. I love the tagline on the Care Hub website. It says, see how they're doing, not what they're doing. Because that's one thing I think nobody wants to be spied on by their children. So,
for example, with the music, it won't tell you what music they listen to. It will simply say, okay, your parent turned on and listened to music. Fine.
Oh, I'm going to do this with my mom. This is great. Okay. I got her an Apple Watch for the fall detection. But I think this is be a great adjunct to that. This is great.
There's a couple of catches to it.
Okay.
You have to be on different accounts.
That's fine. When I gave her an Echo Show, it was showing her my calendar. She got so irritated with that. She said, I'm not doing anything. Why is it? She logged it out of my account and put it on her own. So that's okay. Good.
Okay,
That's interesting. They have to be on separate accounts. That's a good idea, though, I think.
Well, the thing is, my mom is 93. Right now, she hasn't been out of her apartment since the beginning of March.
That's right.
We just basically drop food and stuff by the door and kind of wave through the windows and such.
Yep.
So when to set this up for her so that we could know what she's doing without spying on her. Well, she shared an account with one of my sisters.
Oh.
Don't tell Audible this because they listen to the same audio.
Of course. Yeah. So now you'd be spying on your sister or your aunt, I guess.
The problem is you're not going to get the notification. My sister's doing something, and my mom has fallen. We're not going to get the notification that she didn't turn on the radio this morning.
So somebody in the chat room saying, can you say, hey, Echo, is Grandpa still breathing? Can you do that? No.
No.
Can't, no.
What you can do is you will get a notification and most people are going to have to help their grandparents set up. You have to put the skill onto your Amazon account.
Okay.
Then you send them a link.
Okay.
And they have to accept it, which links the two accounts together and allows you to start monitoring.
I'm going to get on FaceTime with Mom tonight, and I will help set that up for her because that would be – she loves her Echo. That would be really perfect.
And the other thing is when they ask for help, instead of ask for help in getting an E911 call because they can't open the pickle jar.
Yeah. That wouldn't be good.
When you can say, okay, Mom, Dad,
Here.
That's the issue.
I'll send a fireman over to open the pickle jar for you. So
you have no idea how many of those kind of calls go through 911 because the elderly don't understand.
Yeah.
That's not what it's for.
Yeah. This is called the ALEXA Care Hub, and it's on. Unfortunately, I don't have a short URL for it. I have one of those cuckoo Amazon URLs, but if you search for ALEXA Care Hub on Google, you'll find it, and that's really cool. That's really cool. Thank you for telling me about that, Dr. Mom. I had no idea. When did they announce this?
It was just announced this week. I immediately said, this is great for my mom because, as I said, we basically locked her in her apartment since this started.
Yeah.
She gets food deliveries to the door, and we kind of bang on the door and say, okay, come out and get your groceries and stuff.
Now, so I live across the country. Mom's in Rhode Island, but my sister lives a couple of blocks away from Mom in Rhode Island. Could I have my sister and me participate on this, or is it only one Amazon account can do it?
That's not particularly clear. You can certainly try it, again, with my mom, because she's in L.A. with my other two sisters. We're linking it to one of my sister's accounts, so they'll get the notification. It doesn't do me any good to get a notification. My mom, I've fallen and I can't get up if I'm in San Diego.
Exactly. So that's why I'd want my sister who could come running over and help her out. Exactly. That would be or open the pickle jar for her. That would be a really nice thing to do. All right, I'm going to look into this. This, it's obviously Amazon heard all the calls we're getting from kids who want to help their elders with this technology. It's a great technology for my parents, my parent-in-law, Lisa's mom and dad. We gave them an Echo, and they love playing the Elvis on it and stuff. And but there's much more you can do with it. My mom, when she turns on the hot water to warm up the shower, she says, Echo, set a timer for 30 seconds or a minute so she won't forget that she's got the water running. There's so many uses, but this is a really genuine use. And by the way, credit to Scooter X in our chat room. He says, Leo, I've been telling you about this for days. Yeah, Thank you, Dr. Mom. Thank you, Scooter X. It's great to talk to you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Photos coming up. All right, Scooter X, you get credit. Dr. Mom and Scooter X. That's pretty funny. That is so good. Yeah, thank you, Lillian. Thank you so much. That is huge. I really appreciate that. Our show today brought to you by ExpressVPN. Everybody should have in their back pocket at all times a good VPN, right? For a lot of reasons. For security, so that when you're on a Wi-Fi that you don't control, maybe you're at a restaurant, a store, at an airport. By airport, you really want a VPN to protect your security so people can't see what you're doing. That's one. You also want it to protect your privacy, and that could be everywhere. That's on your phone. That's at home, your ISP, your mobile carrier. They're watching everything you do. You don't want them to have that information, sell it to marketers. That's a good reason. It's also great to have a nice, fast VPN, virtual private network, because you can use it to change the country you're in. If if you've watched every Netflix show you can find in the U.S. and you're a Netflix member, just say, ExpressVPN, take me to London. You'll emerge onto the internet in England, and now you can see all Netflix England shows, all the Doctor Who you can eat. Or take me to Tokyo, and now you'll emerge on Netflix Japan. You can watch all the anime you want. So those are some very good reasons to use ExpressVPN. And I want to tell you that ExpressVPN is the only VPN I use because it's the one I really trust. It's so important because, in effect, the security, the privacy, you're taking it away from your ISP, you're taking it away from that Wi-Fi you're on, but you're giving that trust to the VPN provider. So you want to make sure it's a VPN provider that's trustworthy, that does everything right, that keeps you secure, that doesn't log your visits so they can't, cheap and free VPNs very frequently, they just do the same things the ISPs do, maybe even worse. Sometimes they even inject ads into your traffic. They'll log everything you do, not ExpressVPN. They're still very affordable, less than $7 a month. But you want to pay for a VPN because you don't want to incent them to ride on your information, right? ExpressVPN does it right. If you read the privacy policy, no logging. And by the way, that's been independently audited by a third party. It's also independently audited by news stories because periodically countries, especially countries where there's, no warrants necessary, will go in, they'll raid ExpressVPN, they'll take the servers. It happened in Turkey a couple of years ago, and say, we're going to find out who was using it. It's nothing on it. They're empty. ExpressVPN uses something called the trusted server technology that's so cool. Trusted server, this was also audited by an independent third party, so it really does what it says it's going to do. Let's say I'm going to London, because I want to watch Netflix London. So I fire up ExpressVPN. By the way, it's on everything you use, even like smart TVs, and you can put it on your router. But when you fire it up, normally it would just pick the one that's closest to you, but you can say, nope, I want to be in London. So you fire up, you're in London. Now here's what's happening. You're connecting with that server in London. ExpressVPN spins up the server, the VPN server, in RAM. And this is the trusted server technology, and it's sandboxed. It cannot write to the disk. It's running out of memory, and it cannot write to the disk. So there's no way it could log. You're in there, and as soon as you leave, as soon as you shut down the server, it's gone, with not a trace. No footprints on the sands of time or anything. Not a trace. That's trusted server, and that is cool. That's the extra lengths the ExpressVPN goes through. In fact, they were the first, I think, to run servers in RAM. It's kind of brilliant, but it also makes them fast. And they invest in infrastructure, so they have a lot of speed. They have one of the biggest assurance firms auditing their technology, PricewaterhouseCoopers, on a regular basis. PwC you can trust. It means it works. It means CNET named them number one. Wired named them number one. I say it's the only VPN I use. ExpressVPN. Your data, your traffic, that's your business. Let ExpressVPN protect you. They're the best. ExpressVPN.com/techguy. If you go there right now, you can get 3 extra months free with a 1-year plan. ExpressVPN.com/techguy. That's the best deal out there, and it's really worth it. You need a VPN. Everybody should have one. That's a given. You may not use it all the time, but I do, because it's so fast you don't even know it's on. But you don't have to. But you got to have one for those times when you really need privacy and security, or you just I need some Doctor Who, man. ExpressVPN.com/techguy. Get 3 months free when you subscribe for a year. ExpressVPN.com/techguy. We thank them so much for their support of the Tech Guy podcast. And now, back to the show. It's time for our photo guru, our photo sensei, to use the Japanese term, Mr. Chris Marquardt. He's at sensei.photo, helps us get better pictures Whether it's digital or film, he's got a great podcast, Tips from the Top Floor. His site, Sensei, SENSEI.photo, is a great place to get training, get critiques, some coaching if you want to be a better photographer. He also has a new thing. Today we're using a new technology. Usually we use Skype to talk to Chris because he's in Germany. And Skype works pretty well for the radio, but we're using a new technology today called OBS Ninja from the folks who do OBS Studio, which is what a lot of...
Nope. Different folks.
It's different?
Different folks. Different developers, not the same person.
Well, why do they use the OBS name?
It's used to... One of its main functions is to integrate a remote video connection into OBS. That's why it's called OBS.
Which
Ninja,
is
but it's not affiliated with OBS.
Used by Twitch and other gaming streamers and so forth. Yep. Oh, it's not affiliated.
And we're not using OBS here, so.
Oh, OBS.Ninja we're using right now.
That's the system.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Leo.
And you have, what's the name of the OBS Ninja Academy that you run?
OBSNacademy.com. Yeah, it's a system I've spent 6 months, pretty much since COVID, to familiarize myself with this system because it helps to do remote video stuff, and I have moved a lot of my podcasts onto video as well. So I'm talking to guests from LA and from the UK and from Ireland and so on. So it's a really and you know I don't like the way Zoom looks and Skype looks. They have their place, but they always degrade the quality to a certain extent. And this system just allows to do this at a much better quality. And you can hear this. The sound is much better. You can see this. The video is great.
It looks good, and more importantly, the lip sync.
The time the signal.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
The time the signal takes to cross the ocean and back is just so short.
It's kind of amazing, actually.
It's wonderful. It's really it's cutting edge. It's really cutting edge technology right now.
OBS.Ninja is where you can try it out. And
it's free. It's free. No login, no nothing. You could just go there and use it. I mean, it's
I think we might start using this. It's really you're not running a server. You don't have to run a server.
No.
He's doing all that.
It's a direct connection, point-to-point connection between between TWiT and here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
But now that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about photography. And you've created another gallery called Space.
I want to talk about space because that's such an important concept in photography. How do you space things? And so this is not about space, the final frontier. This is about spacing of things in photographs. And you can see this in some of the photos that I've chosen.
Yeah.
Whenever I put something in a photo, I want to have a bit of control over where things go in a photo. And space is always like a relation between what's on the photo and the edges of the frame, because those are always there, right? So you can space things, but you can also space things between each other. The one you're showing right now with the people on the beach, I mean, that's just such a pristine example of those people being really nicely spaced out. It feels very, I don't know, complete, very comfortable, very deliberate. Doesn't look accidental. If you go to the next one, same thing. The Mendocino headlands in this photo. There is a reason why around some monuments and some landmarks, why there are certain spots that photographers want to take pictures from, because things have just the right spacing to each other, to the edge of the frame. So you will see these spots that there's tripod marks in certain spots because photographers go there because that's from where it looks the best because the spacing is right.
That's interesting. So, for instance, these rocks, if you were 3 feet to the left or 3 feet to the right, the picture wouldn't be as attractive because the
relationship between the front and the back of these rocks would be different.
Yeah.
But it feels just perfect this way.
Yeah.
The next one is a very good example of that as well. It's some reflections in the water of
mangrove trees. It's a mangrove swamp.
And I mean, just look at how they are spaced between each other. The front one is framed in the middle between the ones in the back, so there is spacing, but it's not quite exactly in the middle, so it adds a bit of a bit of a tension element to it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I look out for. How are things spaced towards each other? and how are they spaced towards the edge. If you space it weirdly towards the edge, if you don't leave enough space, then you create something that I don't even know. I don't really have a good term, but if you look at the next photo, there's a house on it.
It's
cramped on the top.
Cramped.
Right? It's like this peak at the top of this house is like so close to the edge that you kind of want to. You want a
little more sky at the top.
Pull your head down, right?
Yeah, I have this happen to me all the time because your lens, you can only get so much in, and if you're trying to get a whole building, you'd have to get pretty far away to get the whole thing, and so he should have stepped back a little bit more, I guess.
So the alternative is if you can't get something in or just a little bit, then go to the next photo and you'll see that just cut something off. Just be deliberate in taking something out.
Now, this is something you don't normally do
just
in a portrait, is cut somebody's head off.
But doesn't it look nice?
Yeah, it's fine.
It looks deliberate, right? The photographer has done this deliberately. So
now you see her head's not cut
context,
off. I apologize. Just the
it's
top of
slightly
her head.
cut.
But you know what's there because it's just hair, so it's not like you're missing anything.
And if you go forward to the next one, there's again it's cramped on the top.
Too cramped. Lighthouse too cramped. Yeah.
If you go for the next one, the people's heads are kind of cramped against this pier on the back, so you want space there.
Yeah.
You really want space there.
Give me room. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
The same with this one. It's a wonderful photo, but we're seeing silhouettes, black and white silhouettes in front of a misty kind of mountainy backdrop. But then there are these branches that almost like there's no room, no space between the people's heads and the branches.
This is why God created Photoshop. You just Photoshop those branches right out of there. That'd be easy to do.
That would take care of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the only thing I want to say today.
That's a good exercise if you look at this photo, and I know it's radio, so you'll have to imagine it, but it's a black and white photo, silhouettes of people against a brightly lit sky, and they're standing there on the beach, and their heads are about halfway up the photo. But then there's a big tree branch. And you can even imagine if you edited out that tree branch, that would be a much more compelling, dramatic photo, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just give it a bit more space. Just move it a bit up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's what I want to say. Just look at what happens between the things in your photo, the people in your photo, between each other, but also between them and the edges of the frame.
When you talk to artists, they are always talking about the negative space in a painting, the place where there is no paint. Is that
no subject?
There's no subject. There's not. Is that what you're kind of the negative space you're talking about?
That's the space that is not what the photo's about. That's the sky. That's the background. Right. You could say it. You could see this as the foreground and the background, and that background does play a role because it embeds the foreground. It embeds the subject. It embeds what the photo's about. So
here's an opportunity to take advantage of what we've just learned about space. We have a photo assignment from Mr. Marquardt. What is our assignment this week or this month?
The current assignment is texture.
Texture.
And we'll still have a couple of weeks to go.
So 2 more weeks to take a picture illustrating the word or concept texture. You decide what that means. If you get a picture you think, oh, I like this. And by the way, it doesn't have to be with a fancy camera. A lot of our not winners, but a lot of our selectees use camera phones. Upload it to Flickr, tag it TG Texture, and send it to the Tech Guy group. And then in about 2 weeks, Chris is going to pick 3 to talk about. Chris Marquardt, sensei.photo. Fill the space between your ears. I like that. Yeah, this looks really good. There is a little digital quality that's not bad to the sound. It's not bad. It's worth it for the better lip sync, I think.
Which is adjustable, by the way. You can do you can give the whole thing milliseconds, and it'll just adjust it.
Nice.
So
can you turn the sound quality up at all?
We could go 510 kilobits.
Might try that
for the sound. If you want to.
This has always been my problem with Opus in general. It's hard to describe, but you can hear a little bit of. It almost sounds like square waves.
Okay, 256 would be the next step to try. I mean, we can do this.
I'm being very picky because it sounds pretty good.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds better than Skype for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, John, what do you think? Let's. I think we should probably try this. And yeah, we should. I would love to get Steve on the show. Let's do it with Steve Gibson. Sure. Maybe, and you know who else would? Andy Anako would really benefit from this. He has all sorts of trouble with Skype. I bet you Thurrott would be happy to get rid of Skype. So you just go to obs.ninja and create a link.
It's again, it takes a bit of it does take a bit of explaining, and it's not a point and click thing. You have to have parameters at the URL that kind of tell the browser what to do and so on. So it's a bit of it's more involved than that than just going there. You can quickly get someone into your system if you just go to obs.ninja, add a camera. It says add a camera to OBS, but you can use other systems that way. But then you really want to dive into the parameters, because you can configure pretty much any aspect of the system. The video bandwidth we are using right now is 3.5 megabits. I'm sending to you.
That's nothing.
I'm getting 1.5 megabits back from you just to keep
that's nothing.
Just to keep the bandwidth in check. I could, if my upstream would do it, I could send you 10 megabits, no problem with that system. So it's
so really that's so, and that is,
but it's involved. It's involved.
That's
it's
in the command line for the URL. I take it.
It's in the URL, and you can change parameters and reload the system. There's some stuff you can do dynamically, but usually it's like you configure the system, and then if bandwidth collapses for some reason, it will adapt. But during the adaptation phase, you might have a little artifacting going on. It's just stuff to play with.
I have to say, it's rock solid. I really like the low latency. Is really good.
And we're looking at. Let me see. Yeah, I have like 0.5 seconds until I see my hand move. So, it's. Yeah. It's the round trip is about half a second.
We also don't have the gating, which I really hate. Skype. A lot of times we have audio gating because.
But it requires headphones. It requires good audio. Yeah. So it is more involved. Definitely is. But I think it's so worth it. I have all my guests on things. I have a few guests on 720p connections at 300 kilobits video bandwidth, which is
that's kind of nice. Yeah.
And of course, you get a drop in quality.
I like it that we could turn it up, because most of our hosts have a lot. We've made sure that they have a lot of wired bandwidth. Yeah.
If you have a good sending system with good CPU, you can switch to the VP9 codec. It does support that, but that gets rendered in CPU, so it takes more. It taxes the sending system.
So we'd
want
to play with the parameters for each host to make
sure.
So
you have codecs, you have video bandwidth, you have audio bandwidth, all independent. You have it even supports a group room. So if you have more people than just one,
right?
You could have cool. A group system that does n-1 for each of them, but then you can pull separate video streams from those individuals so they can see each other in the group room.
Gotta run. Time is out. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Micah on the line from Maine. Hello, Micah.
How you doing, Leo? So glad to be able to talk to you today.
Always love talking to you, Micah.
And you said we're not going to talk about geeky things. Does that mean we can't talk about airplane geeks either?
No, you can. Airplane geeks. Now, tell me about the podcast you work with.
I'm part of the Airplane Geeks podcast. It's a weekly podcast, been going on for, about 12 years now. We're up to episode 627, nowhere near what you do, but we only come out weekly, and we're always talking about aviation. We're here to educate and inform and entertain listeners a little bit. We talk about all aspects of aviation, whether it's pleasure travel and commercial aviation or general aviation or military aviation. And we have a guest on this week, at least we're supposed to, that you would just love and happens to be a friend of Johnny Jets. At least Johnny knows who he is. But I think you try to tune in if you can when it comes out on Wednesday.
Oh, you're not going to tell me who?
I can't, because
it's a secret.
If he doesn't show up or something goes wrong,
right,
then everybody's terrible.
I shall listen. AirplaneGeeksPodcast.com. I'm sorry, AirplaneGeeks.com. No podcast. AirplaneGeeks.com. So what can I do for you, Micah?
I called.
Yes.
I'm calling about two different things. One actually has something to do with Chris, who was just on the show, and then another one has to do with my iPad and iPad memory. But the one that has to do with Chris that you haven't mentioned, and I thought it would have been one of your lead-ins and your monologues, was about Google's decision with Google Photos. Are you aware?
Yeah. Oh, I'm very well aware of it. And it's disappointing, but that's the world we live in. You know, we kind of get used to the idea of, hey, it's free. And you've heard me many, many times tell people when they say, I need to back up my photos or I need to have more room on my phone, I always say get Google Photos on there because they have free, unlimited storage. Well, that's ending in June of next year. They are no longer going to have free, unlimited storage. It'll be storage coming out of your Google Drive. So if you have Google One, you might have a terabyte or two of storage, but the free tier is only 15 gigabytes. What happens, did they say, I'm trying to remember, if you have photos on Google Photos now, I have 60,000 photos on there, will they cut you off? Will they delete the photos? What happens to them? Do you know, Micah?
No, they said that those current photos that go on and the ones that you continue to add through June of 2021 will not be counted against your photos.
It's just starting in June.
Starting forward. In June, and they also give you a number in terms of based on how you've been using it, how many years you might have until you run out of storage. And for me, it's about 4 years. But
yeah.
But, you know, for others, it'll be a lot less. And, you know, it's a great product because you put it right there on your phone or your iPad, and there it is. Everything is automatically backed up, and I delete it off my phone or my iPad, and, you know, I'm looking for something else now, or I will be at some time.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, that was a pretty nice free service that Google was offering, and while I'm sad that it's not continuing, you can't really expect something like that to continue forever for free. Amazon offers unlimited original storage if you're a Prime member. So that would be one way you could replace Google Photos. It's been so nice because Google Photos has the AI to categorize it so you can search. It does face recognition. It's just, I understand. This is what happens. Somebody at Google, probably their chief financial officer, Ruth Porat, said, why are we spending $800 million a year for this? For nothing? Why? And cut it off. So,
And I'll probably switch to Prime if they have a convenient app that does the same thing.
They do. It's very similar. In fact, for years I've used both because I am a Prime member, and so I've used both. I've also mentioned there are sites like Shutterfly, which are printers. They want you to store all your photos there because then maybe you'll use them to make prints. So a site like Shutterfly offers, at least for now, unlimited storage. But, nothing like this is going to be free forever. And I think that's really one of the issues. So you just got to keep on top of it. We've had Google for many years. Thank you, Google. Now there's Amazon Prime. That's not exactly free because you have to be a Prime member, $129 a year, I think. But you get other benefits, obviously. Shutterfly is completely free and completely unlimited. I don't know, though. I have to look. They have an app. I don't know if they do original quality. That's something Google did not do unless you had a Pixel phone. They turned them into smaller JPEGs. That's something Amazon does do. It's the original, which is really, I think, the ideal. I don't know if Shutterfly, I would guess Shutterfly probably JPEGs them to make them a little smaller. I'm looking at their site right now to see if they mention that. And I think we should probably get together, a list of other alternate resources. If you don't mind paying for Google Drive, Google Photos exists and will continue to exist. It's not they're going away. Just you don't have unlimited free storage forever.
I think it would be great to come up with alternate resources, but also how to get your photos off of Google and put them on whatever that alternate application is going to be.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great topic for you to discuss. Maybe you and Chris, maybe another show. But
you can with Google Takeout, takeout.google.com, download them all. But it is a challenge to get them in any reasonable organizational. You lose all the photos, everything, all the folders and everything. But there are ways I could. That'd be a good subject. We could do something on that. What's your other question?
A friend of mine finally gave me I got an iPad, and it was just a gift from a friend. It's an iPad Air 2, and I love it, but it's an older one, and it was only 16 gigabytes. And I found out that'd be a problem.
Yeah.
And I deleted most of the apps that I had on my iPhone, and I have just very limited apps. But I guess my question is, I'm wondering how storage works on the iPad, because I'm looking at my Twitter account, the Twitter app, and for some reason that has 416 megabytes on it, and Gmail has 280, and Yahoo has 263 megabytes, and I thought all this stuff was online. Why is it on my iPad?
That's a great question. Of course, apps are bigger than we realize. The days when you had very limited storage and very limited RAM, that forced application developers to be very, penurious in their code. They didn't have a lot of space. Everything had to be very efficient. Those days are gone. And so part of it is just the bloating of applications. If you go into your settings on an iOS device, and you can do this on Android too, you can see how much application data is used and how much storage is used, cache data, things like that. So you can see how big the app is, and it's probably 100 or 200 megabytes just by itself. But then you can also see what data it's storing. And in a lot of cases, things like the Twitter app would be caching photos, images, music, anything that's going to be big to speed up the load for the next time. Just as a browser caches images from websites that you go to. All of that's to speed up the load. You wouldn't want to have to download every image in a Twitter feed every time you visited it. So I imagine it's caching. But actually 200 megabytes, that's not that much on an iPad. It sounds like a lot when you only have 16 gigs. But that's not unusual. I should just look and see how big the Twitter app is on my phone. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that's the app.
I'm looking at the Twitter app, and the app is 110 megabytes.
Okay.
Documents and data is 305. But
Whoa!
there's no way to clear those documents and data. Yeah.
Well, there is. You can delete the app and reinstall, and that'll start from zero.
Well, that's what I'll probably need.
Yeah, and if you're really, on a 16 gigs is so little, at some point soon, you're not even going to be able to update that thing because the download of the iOS update is going to be so big that you won't be able to get it. So I think you're getting close to the end on that Air. Good time to buy a new one, though. The new Air just came out. That's fantastic. And nowadays, Apple doesn't sell any iOS device with less than 128 gigs, I think. Well, wait a minute. You can get some of the phones are 64, but no more 16s for sure.
Well, what I learned is that if you buy an iPad, if you have an iPhone and you buy an iPad, or if you have an iPad and you have an iPhone, make sure you have at least as much memory or more on whatever you're buying.
Good tip. You're absolutely right. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. Got the new iPhone 12 Pro Max in my hot little hands here. We can talk about that. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. If you'd like to talk high-tech, 888-827-5536. That's toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Still can call if you're not in that area. You're anywhere else in the world. Just use Skype out or some sort of VoIP solution to call a phone number, and that should work. Shouldn't cost you anything. 8888 Ask Leo. The website, as we do the show, James DeRuvo, our scribe, is writing everything down. And he puts it up on the website so you don't have to remember anything. You don't have to scribble anything down. He's scribbling while we talk. It's techguylabs.com. Techguylabs.com. And that's free. There's no sign up. Nothing like that. Let's continue on with the show. Gary on the line from Hatfield, Pennsylvania. Hello, Gary. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, it's Jerry, and let's talk TVs.
Hi, Jerry. Okay, TV time.
Leo, I watch TV a lot, and sometimes the moderator or the people talk fast. I can't pick the words up, so I have to put on closed caption.
I do that all the time. If there's an accent that's too strong, I can't understand it, I'll turn on closed. It's really a nice feature, really, that you can turn that on nowadays, and most stuff. And you could probably thank the People with Disabilities Act for making that possible. It really pushed everybody into doing that, and I'm so glad. So, okay.
But a lot of times, there's a crawler going on. I want to see the crawler, too.
Yeah.
And the closed caption goes over top. Is there a TV out there that I can move that crawler up? Do you know of any model? Because I want to get ready for ATSC 3.0. I'm right outside Philadelphia, and they're going to be having that pretty soon. So I want to get ready.
Yeah, that's exciting. In fact, when you get ATSC 3, would you let me know and tell us about it? Give us a review, because you'll be one of the first, I think. So,
yeah, but I want to buy a TV that allows me to move the caption over where I want. Yeah,
I don't think that's a function of the TV. There are, in many TVs, you have a variety of closed caption choices in the menu, and so it is worth trying. CC or CC1 or CC2. In some TVs, I think that will move them around a little bit. So I would start that with the menu. And there are rules about where the captions go. They're not supposed to, for instance, cover up any important information. The FCC has rules about this.
If you're watching a news program, they go right across the crawler.
Yeah. So they're doing it wrong. I don't know if it's the TV doing this. Actually, this is a really interesting question. I hadn't really.
Scott.
Yeah, I will. So it is the TV. Let me think about this. The closed captioning is sent in a separate part of the signal from the broadcaster, and then I guess it is the TV that figures out how to display it. So it might be, yeah, I'm going to have to ask Scott on this one. I might even have to email him and get him to do some research. I'm looking online, and it does, it's kind of baked into the TV setup, but I don't know if there are any. You might want to try using CC1 to see if you can move it around. That sometimes those have different positioning. But I think it's not baked in. It's something that you're right, the TV's doing. I don't know if there's TVs that give you. Wouldn't that be nice if you could have a little arrow and say move it up, move it left, move it right?
On my TV.
Yeah.
My TV is about 6-7 years old, and I don't have the option to move it around. But I found a site where you can go in there and look for your cell phone with the options of the cell phone operating, but nothing for the TVs.
Yeah. Wow, that would really be actually a very useful thing. All right, now wait a minute. I'm looking here. Some systems allow you to modify. There's a captions style menu.
Yeah, it's not it though.
Yeah, that will allow you to choose the background, the size of the text, whether the text is outlined. So some systems, Comcast's Xfinity Box, Dish Network, Verizon Fios, Frontier Fios, TiVo, some streaming boxes like the Apple TV and the Roku. I'm looking at, and I'll put this in the on the website. This is an article from the New York Times about what systems do this, not the TV, but the systems that are creating the content. So I guess it's not the TV, but it looks like there are some places that you can change some of the settings. So that's interesting.
Dish,
yeah, Dish maybe is one of them. Let's see. Some systems.
I want to get ready for 3.0 to cut the cord.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to move that caption around.
So which Dish box are you using?
722.
Okay. Yeah, I went to the Dish page and it's blank. But go to the Dish support page for that box, because apparently some Dish boxes do have settings for captions, and that may be one of the solutions for you.
I own the box, and it's old, like me, and I don't want to get another one.
I don't blame you. So an old box may not have that option, but at least some of the, you might have to have the hopper to do it, but at least some of them do. This is a good article. You know what? I had never even thought about this. And I, like you, I think captioning is great. One of my favorite features of Apple TV is we'll be watching it normally, and then, you know, actors mumble. Is it me? Am I getting old, or or actors are mumbling more? But they'll say, and then if on the Apple TV remote, if you press the Siri button, some other remotes do this too, and say, and I love this, what did he just say? What did she just say? It'll skip back 30 seconds, turn on closed captions just for those 30 seconds so you can see what she said, and then it goes on. I think that's clearly somebody at Apple is over 50. But I don't know if it allows moving of the closed caption. If anybody knows, please, 8888 ask Leo. Jerry, keep listening because I think that's a fantastic question. And please, when you get the newest NTSC 3, let us know how it is and what it does and all that stuff. You know, this is going to be a slow rollout. This is the broadcasters' attempt to compete, frankly, with streaming, and they keep trying this. They keep trying this. I think it's a rear guard action. They're losing big time to streaming, and cable companies are getting cord cut and so forth. Everybody wants to get their TV on the internet these days. Oh, ATSC 3 will expand the closed captioned. That's going to be the solution. Is ATS? Yeah, I meant ATSC, obviously, not NTSC. ATSC 3 will clearly be one of the ways to solve this. That's interesting. Oh, I'm so excited. Our show today brought to you by Linode. I love Linode. I'm sorry. I'll calm down. This is geeky. This is geeky. If you're a web developer, if you want a web site, you shouldn't be running this stuff out of your house on your own servers. You need to have a server out there in the real world, right? That's just, you know, you understand the need for that. Linode has been doing this, I think, longer than anybody. They were the first, as I remember, the first to offer Linux servers in the cloud running on solid-state SSDs, fast drives at a really affordable cost. No wonder. That's why 800,000 developers now use Linode. If you want to create a blog, it's easy. Set up a Linode account. It's inexpensive. And you get, in the old days, it was so complicated getting a server set up and all that stuff. And that's why people did it at home, did it out of the house. But if you're doing web development, you're doing an app, maybe you want a minimum viable product, if you're doing a blog, if you host a website, Linode is the easiest, most affordable way to do it. Flat rate pricing, no matter where in the world you are. They have 11 global data centers. They have a very easy, powerful cloud manager, a full-featured API. And the thing I've always loved the most about Linode, and I've had a Linode account for years, is their customer support. These are really great geeks who know their stuff. They don't put you on hold. They don't forward you. Oh, I got to talk to a manager. None of that. 24/7, 365 days a year. They are there. There's no tiers. There's no handoffs. The person you talk to has the power and the knowledge to do what you need to fix your problem. And it doesn't matter if you're on the least expensive plan. They treat you like a real customer. I just love Linode. It's a great place to do backup. Why use a third-party solution for your photos or your files? Linode makes it so easy. It's so fast. You can easily launch and enrich your developer applications, your hosted services, your websites, AI and machine learning workloads. Yes, they have all of that. Gaming services. They have GPUs online for accelerated ML. They have CI/CD environments. You can launch and scale, which is nice. You could start inexpensively, and as you need more resources, more memory, more storage, more CPU, easily upgrade it. And I got something that you're going to love. A $100 credit right now if you go to linode.com/twit, linode.com/twit. Click the Create Account button. $100 in free credit. That'll last you a long time. They have a great YouTube channel, by the way, for tutorials, youtube.com/Linode. These guys are geeks. They know what you need. They do it for themselves. They do it right. S3 compatible object storage, managed Kubernetes, shared or dedicated compute instances. It's a great way to play with the web, to create stuff. It's so much easier nowadays. And Linode, I think, really pioneered this whole thing. Lots of testimonials if you go to linode.com/twit. Bryce Adams, Meteoric, says, from the start, we were looking for a partner, not a provider. Some of the large providers see us only as a transaction. Linode is the kind of partner that will be with us from the start today and beyond. I love Linode. You will too. Linode.com/twit. Get that $100 free credit. Or you can text TWIT to 474747. Text TWIT to 474747 to get that $100 free credit. Or just go to LINODE, linode.com/twit. We love Linode. Thank you for supporting the Tech Guy Show. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 8888 asked Leo. Micah's question last hour was really interesting. He said, why is Twitter so big and taking up so much space on my iPad? 100 megabytes. That is a little bit large for something that really isn't doing much at all. Many of our programs these days are just windows onto websites. That's basically all the Twitter app is. There's a lot of extra wasted space in that code. In the old days, programs, you didn't have any storage and you didn't have any memory. So you kind of had to be, tight with your coding. If you had a 100 kilobyte program, well, that's big. I don't know if I can get it in RAM. Now it's 100 megabytes, and that seems small. 88 ask Leo. That's the phone number. It's the times change. That's it, right? That's the bottom line. Jacob's on the line from Montreal. Hello, Jacob.
Yes, hello. Thank you for taking my call. I waited a while, but I was.
Thank you for your patience. And as they say in Montreal, bonjour, hi.
Yes, bonjour, hi to you too. So listen, I was really surprised and pleased to hear you talk about Linux before, because I was considering it, and I still am. I did my research, but I want to ask you that as a second question. First, I just want to clarify a certain point about Windows 10, if I may.
Sure.
I was a Windows 7 user for a long time, and I like that operating system. It's very nice, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it works.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was literally forced, in one sense, to upgrade to Windows 10 because it was getting kind of risky, So a friend of mine suggested, he insisted that I upgrade. I did.
He suggested and insisted, and you did, and you're not unhappy, are you?
No, I think more or less it seems to be working, although it doesn't have certain features that I like about Windows 7. I want to just ask you a quick question about that. So,
okay.
There is something called the Classic Shell, and it was recommended not only by my friend who was tech savvy, but by other people. So I went to the site, and at the top, it gives you a list of the version you can get. I click on the first one, the English version, the very top one, when you go to Classic Shell. When you click that, you come to a page with an interesting little note at the bottom. If you go near the bottom, near the middle of the bottom, on the right side, it says virus total scan. And then it says engines 068, whatever, engines detected this file, media fire scans, high-risk files using virus total.
Yeah, so here's the deal. First of all, Classic Shell, which was an open source attempt to make Windows look more like the old days, hasn't been in development for 3 years. That's not good. And what they have on their page there, it used to be very common with shareware. They'd say, hey, it's scanned. We've had it, we scan it so you don't have to worry about viruses in it. Obviously, nobody's looked at that page because it sounds like the scan determined there was a virus. There wasn't. That's probably a false positive. But I wouldn't use Classic Shell because it's old. Now, it's free, but it's 3 years old, and Windows has moved quite a bit down the road. There is a company, though, that makes a product. It's not free, but it's very inexpensive, that does much of the same thing. In fact, it does more, called StarDock. And this is up to date. There's no viruses in it. It's safe. StarDock.com. Your friend who recommended Classic Shell is probably a cheapskate and didn't want to pay the $5 or $10 for the new shell. Wanted to use the free one. Classic Shell was very popular back in its day, but the fact that it hasn't been, nobody's done anything to it in 3 years.
Okay, 1 second. So you're talking about StarDock, STARDOC.com?
DOCK.
DOCK.com. Let me ask you something, though. Does this particular program give you a look of Windows 7?
Yeah, it can make it look like Windows XP if you want.
Okay, and does Microsoft offer a some kind of a mod that you can add to its OS to make it look like Windows?
No, this is the one I probably would recommend. Microsoft doesn't want to make it. You can do a little bit of modding, as you've probably noticed, but they don't want to make it. They want a standard look, right? They don't want to make it too different. But Stardock has been in business for 20 years doing exactly this, giving people the old look and feel that people like. They have a variety of different programs, but you'll probably want Windows Blind, which is kind of Windows Blinds, plural, which customizes the taskbar, Windows frames, and more. But you could look at their other products, too. The Object Desktop you could buy. That does everything. So what they've done is they've taken all the little, you can buy the individual pieces, like they have a cursor program. You could buy them individually for like $5, or you could buy the whole Object Desktop, which is what I would probably do, which gives you all of their customization. And if you want, it's $30. And if you want your Windows 10 to look like Windows XP, you can do it. And so this is the best way to customize Windows.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Now, let me just get on to the Linux question I want to ask you. I did some research over a number of months. I downloaded versions of it that you could try on a stick, and I came down to two versions after all the versions that I looked at. And one is Manjaro, like what you mentioned earlier, and the other one is MX Linux.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Both of those are good. So here's the deal with Linux. Free operating system. It's open source, created by a graduate student from Finland named Linus Torvalds. Back in 1992, his timing was perfect because the internet was coming on strong, and there were lots of programmers out there who were willing to jump in and help. Thousands of people have made Linux a fantastic choice for people who don't want to run a commercial operating system. There are two main distributions that are community driven, and I think MX Linux is fine. It's based on one of the branches, the Debian branch. Debian is the heart and soul of Linux for MX Linux, for Ubuntu, for Pop! OS, for a lot of Linux. It's a very stable, very reliable, fairly conservative version of Linux, but it's community run. I love it. I think they've done a great job. MX Linux is kind of just a customization on top of Debian. Manjaro is a customization on top of something called Arch, which is a different kind of Linux. I would say MX Linux or Debian or Ubuntu would be good for somebody who's dipping their toes into the Linux waters, is new to this, not a hardcore geek. Once you get more sophisticated, more interested, more kind of comfortable with Linux, I like Manjaro. That's the Linux I put on every system because it's always the biggest difference between Debian and Manjaro is that Manjaro tends to have more recent versions of all the software. It's what we call a rolling release.
So let me just ask you one more point, if I may.
Okay.
And that is the question which I believe is on many people's minds, and that is if you want to use programs which are largely written for Windows, but they're very good, like
that's on Linux. There's something called Wine that will let you run many Windows programs, but really the key about Linux is because it's open source, you should look for Linux versions of the programs you use on Windows and use those instead. Yes, you can run Windows programs in many cases like Office, but there's a better choice called LibreOffice that's free, open source, and does everything Microsoft Office will do. That's the better choice. That's a little recording from, I think people don't know this, but Professor Laura, Lady Laura, our musical director, moonlights as a cabaret singer, and this is her most recent recording.
Don't tell anybody.
Oh, it's secret? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give that away. 8888, ask Leo. Nice voice. Joe on the line from Coldwater, Florida. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. How are you?
Been better.
Oh.
I have a little problem with Authy.
Oh, Authy. Yeah, I love Authy.
I liked it, too, until I can't log into some of my social media accounts.
Okay, so let me explain what Authy is, and then we'll see if we can help you. AUTHY.com. It's made by a company called Twilio. It's a free program. Maybe you've heard of Google Authenticator. You know, a lot of times when you log into a site and you say, I want to have two-factor authentication, they say, okay, fine, install Google Authenticator. And then you can use it to generate those 6-digit codes. The idea being, you need it normally to log into an application or into a website. You normally, like, let's say it's your bank. You need your login. That could be your name or your email address. And you need a password, you know, your monkey123 or whatever it is. But what if somebody could figure out your email address and your password that did get into your account? So we make it more secure by adding a second piece of authentication. That's what all of this is about, proving I am who I say I am. There's 3 ways you can do that. 3 different kinds of authentication. There's something you remember, like a password. Something you are, like your fingerprint or your face ID or your iris scan, that's your biometrics, or something you have. And initially that was like a credit card or a dongle that had a little number generator, but now it's just the authenticator. What you have is your phone, and by a physical thing called the authenticator, you give two factors, both something you know, your password, and something you have, your authenticator. That is more than twice as secure, because a bad guy would have to get your phone to get that 6-digit authentication code. So you don't have to use Google Authenticator. Microsoft has theirs. LastPass has theirs. But the one I like is Authy, because with Authy, actually Google started doing this too now. You can set up an account with Authy, and it'll remember all your settings when you move to a different phone instead of having to set it all up all over again. So what you're doing, let's say you're on Twitter, social media account, you set up a password and a login, but now you can add a second factor. And usually the way that works is they'll say, okay, fire up your Google Authenticator or your Authy. Here is a QR code, you know, one of those crazy little dotted things they put on the screen. Take a picture of that with Authy, and then it what it actually is a very long secret number. You could even enter it by hand if you were really cuckoo, but the QR code's easier. And then Authy stores that secret number, mixes it in with the time of day, and generates every 30 seconds a new 6-digit authentication code. So what's gone wrong? I'm sorry, I had to do all that for all the people who didn't know what we were talking about.
No problem. My phone went for a swim about 2 weeks ago. Went in the pool.
Oh, no.
Totally lost it. And so I pulled the phone out of the pool, got a temporary replacement phone, and then eventually got a new iPhone.
Good.
And I took the SIM card along with it, but somewhere along the way, I can't get into Authy, and even if I download it, when it gives me a code, the place I'm logging into are saying, hey, give us your Authy code, and I put the code in.
And they say we don't like it. Yeah.
Right.
So the only way you could fix that is by going back to those sites. This is the thing we used to have to do. It's the reason I recommended Authy, because you create an account with Authy, and then it stores all those secret numbers. So when you need a new phone, you log into your Authy account. I take it you did that. It should download all those secret numbers and be generating the same 6-digit code that you used to generate on the old phone. It's not tied to the phone. It's tied to that secret number that the site gave you and the time of day. But you're saying it doesn't recognize the codes. Did you log into your Authy account?
Yes. Well, I don't know if I logged into it. I might have re-downloaded it. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to download the app, and then you would log in, and that way it would know it's you, and it would say, oh, I will sync down the codes from the old phone into your phone. If it's not working, it sounds like either you logged into a different account or it didn't work quite right. You might try it again, but the way to solve this is to turn off I see. How do you log into your, if you've lost?
Right, and because I've reached out to some of the accounts, and they're like, hey, we can't undo that for you.
Right.
You need to do that.
Right. How do you get in with that, your two-factor? Well, in every case, there should be a backup authentication. Usually that's to a phone number. Sometimes it's to an email. So you would say, when it asks for that 6-digit code, underneath it, it should say, I don't have my authenticator. And then you click that, and it'll say, oh, well, okay, so we're going to email you the code. You use that, turn off the authentication, two-factor, turn it back on, you'll get a new QR. You'll do that all over again. You have to do that for each thing and start over. And then next time, just kind of, I guess, make sure your Authy is properly backed up. Google now does this too with Authenticator, which is nice. I'm not sure. It sounds like maybe you had multiple Authy accounts, or maybe you created.
It's possible. It's so convenient that I just.
You never think about it. Yeah.
Boom.
Well, the good news about Authy is there are desktop versions too. You could try downloading Authy on as a Chrome extension or as a Firefox extension, or actually, I think it's only Chrome extension, or the Authy app for Windows. Log in, try to do it carefully, make sure you're using the right thing, see if those 6-digit codes are correct. So you may actually be able to get it working on some other device. There is there's a Chrome version of Authy as well, an extension. But it sounds like you might have 2 accounts or something happened or whatever. The other way to do this would be when you get that crazy looking QR code is to screenshot it and store it somewhere safe. Maybe even just print it out, put it in a notebook, put it somewhere safe, and then you can recreate all the authenticators. In the old days, before Authy, the reason I recommend Authy is because this whole process of remembering, your secret numbers is much easier and I move from phone to phone, monthly practically. So I really needed something like this. But you can always, in the old days before that, we had to recreate it. Each time we got a new phone, you'd have to log in. I've lost my authenticator, just like I forgot my password. It's a little link underneath the authenticator. I lost it. I don't have it. In every case, when you set up an authenticator, you should set up a secondary way of authenticating. And I would imagine that you've got such a thing. I would hope so. But try Authy if you can put it on some other device and try logging in. Make sure that, your phone date and time are always correct, so I don't think that's it. Somebody in the chat room is actually asking a really good question. Do normal people need this level of security? Yeah. The thing about two-factor is it's easy. You have the Authy running on your phone when you log into the bank or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you don't want, you just fire up the authenticator and you get the 6-digit code, you type it in. That really is the easiest way. And it's more than twice as secure. Are ordinary people subject to malware, ransomware, targeted attacks? Yeah. Maybe not as much as celebrities or rich people, but yeah. You don't want somebody to get into your bank account. You probably don't want somebody to get into your Twitter or your Facebook even. So two-factor is, I think, a fairly easy way to more than double the security. It's my strong advice. Besides using a password manager, turn on two-factor. That is the single most secure thing you can do. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to all of our callers. Thank you to Lady Laura, our musical director. Thank you to Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. Thank you for listening. That's the most important job of all. You are essential listeners. Thank you. I couldn't do it without you. And I hope you'll come back and listen next week. Last segment of the show. Let's see, though. We can get a few calls in here, help some people get the most out of their technology, starting with Alexander in Bayside, New York. Queens, right?
Yep, that's Queens, born and raised.
Love it. What can I do for you?
I'm going to bring you, you with Authy, I think you answered my question, but I'm going to bring you back a couple of years.
Okay.
Does TalkShoe bring you anything?
Yeah, we used to do our show on TalkShoe. That was so much fun.
Yep, I was actually one of your callers on TalkShoe.
Remember at the end of Net at Night, we had everybody, we would do TalkShoe. It's still around, by the way. It's a great way to podcast, to take callers. For instance, if I didn't have radio stations, I'd probably still do this show on TalkShoe because you could take calls. And at the end of Net at Night, remember, me and Amber, we'd say, all right, and we'd open up all the microphones, say good night, everybody. And 100 people would all shout, good night, goodbye. Remember, were you part of that?
Of course.
So much fun. You know what? I want to do it again. That's great. I was real pleased to see they were at the latest podcast conference. They were there. I said, I love you guys.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Those were the days.
My question was, my iCloud account was basically tried to be hacked. But
See? And you know what? Apple has two-factor, don't they?
That's exactly what worked.
Stopped them cold.
But I did, like a check, and I do have some old passwords, and I don't have a password authentication app. So I think Authy would, your previous caller answered my question.
Well, Authy is for two-factor. So Apple does it their own way, and a lot of companies now I think are going to start doing this. You've probably seen this. I think it's kind of funky because it kind of requires you to have multiple Apple devices, probably why Apple does it, right? But when you try to log into your iCloud on your computer, it says, okay, we're going to send you a two-factor authentication to your other Apple device.
It also went to my iPhone, my old tablet as well.
Yeah, it goes to your phone, your watch, your tablet, whatever. And then it'll say, is this you? And it'll show the location, which is nice, right? If it's Budapest, maybe that isn't you. But you say, oh, yeah, it's Queens. That's me. So you say, okay. And then it gives you a 6-digit code you have to enter in. The funniest thing, though.
It was Hungary. Hungary was where it came from.
Well, see? You see what I'm saying? I knew. Somehow I figured that out. So it was somebody in Budapest. So anyway, you saw it was Budapest. You said, don't allow. And that bad guy might have figured out your password, but he sure as heck couldn't get through because of two-factor.
Exactly. And right away I changed my password.
But this is where the password's a different part of it. That's the password manager you want. And what that does is it generates really crazy passwords that you'll never remember, but you don't have to because it remembers them for you. And it stores them in the password vault. Yeah, the biggest mistake people make, and I don't blame them. No, we're not built to remember hundreds of obscure passwords. So you use the same one over and over again, right?
Yep.
Or you have it sort of, you have you have 2 or 3 different ones. Sometimes it's my middle initial, sometimes not, that kind of thing. Those are really easily guessed by the bad guys.
Correct.
They have all sorts of tools to they call it brute force, to guess a lot of passwords fast. And the first thing they do is the obvious stuff, monkey 1, 2, 3. So, and the second thing is reusing a password can be a problem because if they get into one account and they get that password, and breaches happen all the time, sites get hacked, passwords leak out. Just saw a driver's license database got hacked in Texas. Something like millions of accounts got leaked out. Probably no passwords in that case, but still, these things happen. So your password gets out, and now the bad guy says, oh, well, that's his password. I bet you he used it everywhere else, and he just tries a bunch of stuff, trying to figure out if he can get in. So you always want to use different passwords on every site. You want to make them hard to guess, hard to brute force. That's where a password manager will help you. And then you still want to turn on two-factor. But if you've done that, people are always trying to get into your accounts. I don't think people understand this. Are you famous, Alexander? Are you the Alexander from Bayside, Queens?
I mean, I want to say yes, but honestly, no.
There may be another one. So you're not famous, but they're still trying to get into your iCloud, right?
That's why it hit so close to home. I felt violated, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It's a violation. It's kind of not a nice feeling.
Yeah.
But the two-factor saved you. Aren't you glad you had turned that on?
I am. Password managers, Authy, and two-factor. That's the savior.
Good man, Alec. You are the Alexander from Bayside, Queens. I knew you were. Hey, it's good to talk to you.
It was a pleasure, and I have to congratulate on everything you've done. TWiT, GRC, the screensavers. You're one of my heroes.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Alexander. Someday, I hope to go out and visit New York again, and I'll wave as I land at JFK.
I even remember you on Good Morning America.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's nice to talk to you. Thanks, Alexander.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Now it's time for Bernard from Northridge, California. Hello, Bernard.
Hello, Leo. I have to say that you are America's hero in the tech world.
Oh, God, you're going to make me cry. Now, come on. Knock that off, Bernard.
Okay. Hey, man, I'm sorry. You can cry.
I'm blushing.
It's the truth, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You're very kind.
I read your books. Just every word. Anything Leo is good.
Oh, man. You're making me feel good. Thank you. What can I do to return the favor?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a pretty techie guy. I came out of high school. I studied computer design under Seymour Cray.
What? What?
Yeah.
Oh, I bow down to you. I'm not worthy.
Yeah, well, hey, man, it was quite an experience.
That Cray built those supercomputers like the one with a couch around it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and his company is still going strong after he's gone.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let me get to this problem.
Yes.
What I'm doing, I did a lot of stuff. I did stuff with microprocessors. I did chips and everything. I'm 69 years old, and I'm still interested in tech. It just keeps me alive.
Good for you, Bernard. So, that's great.
What I'm trying to do, I'm interested in something. I did a program. I programmed a Z80 computer at CSUN years ago.
Yeah.
And they had a program there that they had you to do where you looked at a part on a see-through conveyor belt with a robotic arm that was going to take the part off the conveyor belt.
You did early recognition, photographic recognition.
Hey, Leo.
On a Z80. Dude.
I got to tell you something. You brought it up, and I know we don't have much time.
I got a minute left, so yeah.
There was a guy named Bill Mizell who made the first voice pattern recognition system, and I was on the consulting team that built that first.
That is so cool.
It's so cool.
That is so cool. Well, I'm glad you're keeping it up. What are you doing these days?
Well, I retired early, maybe about 10 years ago, because I had to take care of my mom.
Oh.
She fell and broke her vertebrae.
Hey, Bernard, I am literally running out of time. Would you hang on? I still want to talk to you. We're just going to have to do it off the air. Is that okay?
Okay.
Because I'm up against the clock. This is network radio. I'm sorry, but hang on, because I do want to hear more about this. I do want to thank you all for being here. I hope you stay safe this week. You know, we're going through this big surge. This is not a time to go out there and party. This is a time to stay home, play with your computer, play with your smartphone, and enjoy life. And I will see you next week. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a safe Geek Week. I am sorry, Bernard. I apologize.
No, you ain't got nothing to apologize. You're great, man.
We were having fun. I want to hear more about this. Was it Z80 assembler you were writing?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, man. You know what? I have an uncle who was a musician who later on became a rocket scientist. and he knew me when I was a little kid. I mean, when I was like...
He must have influenced you a little bit, huh?
Oh, yeah. But then... I'm now in California, and we meet up, and it turns out that he went into technology and I went into technology, but we just didn't know, that we both did. I mean, we talk a lot of stuff, but anyway, he has a thing that he says about me. He says, "You are always there." He laughs about when I was working at the school district. I was talking to the guys there. I was saying, "Hey, man, it's this new thing coming out called the internet. It's going to be really big. And they were auctioning off addresses, internet addresses at the time. I mean, for a little money. I said, we can put together $50 and we can buy all these addresses. And they were saying, excuse me, Bernard, but I got to work on this printer. I said, hey, man, this is going to be big, And then 10 years later, they said, hey, I remember when you told me about that, Bernard.
Oh, yeah. Now the internet is big, huh? Too bad.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah. So anyway, I know I could talk forever, man, but I want to get to this problem. I want to say what I'm saying. So they had that see-through conveyor belt, and it had a camera that could look at the part on the belt and find the smallest axis of that device so that the robotic arm could pick it up.
Wow.
Okay. Now, what I'm interested in doing, say if you got a situation where you want to take a orange and peel it, right? And say you got some a tool that would peel the orange, scissors. That's just some tool.
Yeah.
But you want to be able to look at that in real time and what do you call it? Control the dimensions enough to get in there and peel the orange without destroying the orange. So you're gonna be on like a X and Y plot coordinate.
Yeah.
So now I know that the Da Vinci surgical machine does something similar like that, but I don't know how to get. I'm trying to figure out how can I find Do you think I would be able to find any real-time software that would handle the control in a real-time environment that could do something like that? I would think that something like that would be around.
Oh, yeah. In fact, if you want to howl, just search for videos of.
Wait, if I want to what?
If you want to howl with laughter, just search for videos, because they're doing this in colleges everywhere, of people trying to create arms to feed people. There's a very funny one of this woman's trying to build this robotic arm, and it ends up beating her on the head with a spoon because this is hard, right? There are a lot of videos of this exact thing. In fact, it's something they're doing in school a lot because it is robotic control. So I do not know. I'm sure you're right, Bernard. There's tons of software out there to do this.
Yeah, but here's a problem for me, Leo. I don't know what specifically, when I'm talking about that software that can control the in real time the X, Y coordinate to relative to an object. And
right.
Can really get the dimensions and stuff. I don't know what would you call that class of software? What would I ask for? Well, I don't know. Even if I saw the person who had it, I don't know what I would be asking.
You would want something called real-time image processing.
Okay, real-time image processing.
And robotic control.
Image processing.
So the reason it's real-time is because you have to get a feedback loop between the pinchers and the image, so that you can, in real time, you can't do it later. You got to do it as it's working. See where the pincher is, where the robot is. You can actually do this with a program as simple as a Raspberry Pi. That's a $35 computer running the Raspbian OS. They do it in. There are a lot of ways to do this, but MATLAB is one of the programs that's commonly used for this. I am going to put.
I actually saw that, and I was curious about it. Okay.
Yeah, MATLAB. But I'm going to put in the chat room right now. We'll put it up in the show notes. A research publication, real-time image processing-based robotic arm control. This is what you want to do.
Okay, wait a minute. Say that again. I'm trying to write this down.
Well, if you Google robotic arm control.
Robotic arm control.
Using image processing.
Using image
processing. You'll see a number of scholarly papers and articles in the Google results. There's one I'm looking at that uses it proposes, I don't know if she's actually solved it, but it proposes doing this with a Raspberry Pi. They did make a robot. So there are people doing this with a Raspberry Pi, which is a very inexpensive, simple computer. But if you do that Google search, robot arm control using image processing, you will see quite a few articles on a lot of different sites about this. And I think it'll get you started anyway. I'm not an expert in this, but there's some really interesting stuff being done. And I think this is something you could completely do as a hobbyist. Completely.
Okay. Now, Leo, I just want to tell you, I've had people who don't know each other talk to me in bookstores, and they all say that I should write a book.
I think you should.
In the places I've been and what I've done.
Yes.
Now, I want to tell you something I'm the proudest of. About 40 years ago, I ended up working at Space Lab.
Oh, wow.
That was a spinoff of NASA.
Yeah.
And that was where the astronauts, it was from the Gemini Apollo.
I remember the Space Lab project, you bet.
Yeah, well...
So what's your favorite language? What do you like to work in?
Well, as far as programming?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. That's been my weakest link. I did a lot of hardware, and I'm familiar with...
Oh, you're a hardware guy. Oh.
Yeah, but I'm familiar with software. I have to use the software, too. And I've done some programming and stuff, but I just haven't had a job sitting down programming.
Well, this is going to be a great hobby for you. I'm jealous because I wish I could do what you're doing. I have to go, Bernard, because I'm keeping Laura waiting. I have to record a promo.
Leo, you have to know that I thought it was going to be so hard to get into you. And this is the first call I made, and I got right in.
Oh, I'm so glad you did, too. It's a pleasure meeting you.
It's a pleasure talking to you, man. It's a thrill.
Bernard, write that book.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.